Hello everybody, this is the brand new Opel Corsa and we're here to see whether you pick the new Opel Corsa or the Polo. So speaking about the design of the brand new Opel Corsa, I do gotta say it does look a lot more refined than the previous generation, because what they took with the previous generation is they almost like pushed it in a bit to make it a bit more cleaner, a bit more smooth, as you can see with the new front end design as well as the new badging. You also do get standard on every single trim level LED running lights as well as headlights as well, and also front parking sensors, so that's a nice feature to have. Now coming alongside over here, you can see the profile of this car. It does kind of resemble a Peugeot 208 in that sense, because they do share the same architecture as well as the same company as well, which is Stellantis.
Okay, so now we're in the interior of the car, and I want to start off by showing you the instrument cluster, because it's quite weird here. You have your kilometers over here. This little thing is for your speed limit sensor, so it will sense the speed limit signs on the road, and it will tell you what the speed limit is over there. Then you have your fuel gauge over there here on this side, and for some reason your RPM on that side. Obviously it will tell you your trip and everything, and it will also tell you your fuel economy. The reason why it's so high here is because if you want to drive really like pushing the speed limit or slightly above the speed limit on the highway, then you aren't going to get the best fuel economy. But we have spoken to the owner of the car, and they have said that when you drive the car, you know, normal speed limit on the highway or just normal time driving, you're going to get about 4.5 liters to the 100, which is really good. Then I'm going to talk about the infotainment over here. You have the music settings over here, obviously, that you can go into for CarPlay, for Android Auto. Then obviously phone, once your phone is connected to the car via Bluetooth, this is what your home screen looks like. Then you can go into your navigation. Well, this is actually System Center right over here, so you can edit whatever you want when it comes to whatever you want for your systems. Photos for some reason, and your car settings over here. Now going down from there, you then have your temperature controls down here. Then you have your charging situation, where you have a USB-C port over there. You've got your 12-volt socket. On the higher spec model, you will have your wireless charging pad down there. Then you have your gear selector over here. I don't really like the gear selector design. I do prefer the design on the Peugeot 208 and the VW Polo. That's just my personal preference. I do know that Eugene prefers the design on the Peugeot 208. I don't know about Matteo. What do you prefer?
I definitely prefer the Peugeot. The Peugeot to me is just a bit more upmarket, a bit more sporty, a bit more engaging looking and feeling.
Definitely. And we're going to mention the Peugeot 208 a lot, because that is, imagine this is sort of like the Polo Vivo, and then the Peugeot 208 is the Polo. It's just a slightly more refined car compared to this one, but you will still have a lot of the same bells and whistles in this car. You're not missing out on too much. Another thing you're not missing out on too much in terms of the general aesthetic of the car, I guess, is the exact same sort of window controls over here. You have your child lock settings over here in case you have, you know, your child or your friends act like children. Then you have, you know, some storage space over here. You can put like a wallet over there. You can put a water bottle over there. And then you've got a little storage compartment down here by where the key is. So you see the key fob over there. And you've got a little storage compartment for things like cards or maybe extra keys or whatever, for like house keys or whatnot. Then down here on the side, you have two extra cup holders over here. Obviously your handbrake is there. You've got another little storage area for whatever you want to put down there. And same situation back there for your back passenger. Now talking about passengers, Matteo is going to talk about the front passenger situation.
Okay guys, so we are now in the passenger seat of the new Opel Corsa. And I just want to start off by saying how refined these cars actually are. A lot of people really underestimate what Opel and even Peugeot are like in terms of build quality. I mean, there is barely any noise pushing on any of the materials. I mean, everything is just made solid. Even if you look here, whatever you move, there's no noise. I did just also notice this. There's a little shark graphic in there, a nice little Easter egg from Opel, and that is pretty cool. Now coming to the passenger seat, it is quite comfortable. I mean, the seats have some decent bolstering here actually to make it a little bit more sporty, to hug you in a bit more when you're driving. Obviously these cars, being the Peugeot 208 and this Opel Corsa, are known to be decent handling cars, and so when you're going around the corner, to have some nice bolstered seats to hug you in tight is really nice. Coming to the dash here, you have a really nice, almost looks like Mercedes-Benz emblems. Like styled material. I don't know if you guys can see the little Mercedes emblem running through, almost like a sharky. Again, almost heading back to that, like a shark type of texture on that, which is really cool and is soft touch. So so it's a nice touch to have. Now on this side here you do have a harder scratchy plastic, and over here you do have a slightly softer plastic. They're not the most expensive materials, but weirdly enough Peugeot and Opel have looked after your elbows, because right here on the side you have a really nice like leathery soft touch piece for your elbow to sit in, which is pretty cool, but at the same time very weird as to why they don't have more of this sitting in the car. Now coming to the glove box, as you can see, it isn't very big at all. You have a little bit of space here and a little bit of space here for your books, but mainly this is going to be taken up by your service books and all your other guides and informations and manuals. And then one last thing to just say about the car is it is very driver's focused. So I'd let you can show you now by pointing, this is all facing towards the driver here as well as the dash. So all of this is more focused on the driver. They really have made it a bit more driver friendly in a sense, more on the driver, except for that gauge cluster, which we're gonna have to drive and see what it's like when we're driving. But to me that's a bit weird. But yeah, otherwise this car is really good. I mean, there's a lot of really nice features as standard, and even this just being the middle trim is really good for your money. So would I take it over a Polo possibly inside? Yes, it is a bit more quirky, a bit more fun in some ways. Sure, the Polo is as close in terms of build quality as they can be, but this does have a little bit of fun to it that the Polo might be lacking, and it's a bit more uncommon than the Polo. So let's head to the back seats now and see what Eugene has to say about those.
Now that I'm sitting in the back seat of this wonderful Opel Corsa, what do I have to say about it? Sitting upright in my upright position, I'm about 5'8". You can see I have a bit of headroom. People over 6 foot will probably struggle because of the way the sloping roofline is designed. And in the back seat over here, I will say it is a lot more roomier than something like even a Renault Clio, which is something that I personally own myself. Because in that car, you really do feel like you're sitting high and it's really cramped in there. You don't have much of space. Another thing I do gotta say about this car is, and also another quirk, is that you also get automatic full windows all around, which is a nice feature to have. I'm not sure if a Polo has that, but if they do, they'll probably charge you an extra couple $1,000, or as we put it, they just cheap out a lot of the time. So now let's just check out how the boot space is in this economy car.
First thing I want to touch on is the fact that because this is a car that most people around our age, my age, are going to be buying and considering, it's probably going to be a uni student's car. So one thing uni students might want to do, I don't recommend it obviously, but if your friend is giving you a bit of trouble and you just want to, you know, shut them up for a little bit, you can store them in the boot.
You can quite comfortably fit for what the size of the car really is, but it isn't as comfortable as something like the Prado per se or the Range Rover.
But I want to say, if you're going to store your friend in the boot, right, they are going to have a little bit of trouble because there is a ridge over here. So when you put the seats down and everything, you have a little bit of a ridge. And I do have to say, the boot is quite a bit small. It's small, you're gonna have to put it down if you want to fit something like a bike or surfboard or a few skateboards, whatever, or you know, a whole lot of luggage or whatever, because you're probably gonna be moving out your parents' house into your own place, and you're gonna need to put your seats down to be able to fit anything in there. I want to show you that, and we're gonna cut very quickly because I'm going to show you how the seats are like. Right, so now that the seats are up, I can show you just how small the boot is. It's a little bit bigger. Let me start by this. It's a little bit bigger than what you get in like a Suzuki Swift, right? But it isn't as big as what you get in like a Suzuki Baleno or maybe a VW Polo. It's around the same size actually as a Polo. So looking here, and you have this smallish boot. Obviously you got like an emergency triangle over here situation. Then you got your spare tire over there. It's a full-size spare tire. It's not even a biscuit, which is quite nice. Then you got your hooks and everything for, you know, if you want to hook something to the inside of your boot or whatnot. And you also have boot lights. You're not going to get any charges in this one. You might get charged. No, you do get charges in the higher spec model, but that's the boot.
Okay guys, we're now at the front end and have come to look under the bonnet of the new Opel Corsa to see if it can really rival some of its competition. Now underneath the new Opel Corsa you have a 1.2 litre 3-cylinder turbo that pushes out 74 kilowatts, which is a pretty good number, and that's for the base and middle trim. The top of the range gets 96 kilowatts and also has a really strong torque figure of 205 Newton meters. To put that in perspective, the previous generation Renault Clio only had 130 newtons from a turbocharged 3-cylinder. So that's a lot of torque and explains why this car is so economical. Now, talking about economical, this car has about 3/4 of the tank left with an average of just over 8 liters per 100 kilometers. and has 400 kilometers range, just over that in range. So driving it slowly, calmly, will actually even boost the range more, which means you'll have over 450 kilometers range with 3/4 of the tank. So not only can it be quite a nippy little car, and we'll get to that more when we're driving it, but the car is super economical. So I am really pleased with this little motor in the car. Driving the new Opel Corsa to experience a bit of it whilst on the road, and I must start off and say that the suspension is actually lovely. It's not only smooth and really capable over bumps and like rougher terrain on the road here, and really makes you feel like you're in a bit more of a premium car, but on top of that, the car actually handles really nicely. The steering is very direct. As you can see here, the car moves really direct with the steering, which is really nice. It gives you that bit of a sporty touch. But I must say that the clutch is quite light. Now for someone like me or later Eugene who prefer the sportier drive, that's more of an issue. But for a general driving around town type of car, that is honestly perfect. You don't want to overly work your left leg whilst driving around in traffic. Okay, there's the Cayman GT4 RS. So one quick mention now, after the fact that there's a nice GT4 RS over here, is that when you come to stop, there is a pedestrian detection system in this car, which is a really quirky feature, and it comes along with quite a lot of other features. I mean, you've got a lane assist feature in here, as well as your different detection systems on the side here, which one of the other boys will talk a bit more about. Now, coming to the front, I must say, seeing as it's not the driver's focus car, that this gauge cluster isn't too bad as we thought it might be, and so it isn't really too much of an issue. I mean, you're not too focused on that, and the speed is in your face, so you know exactly how fast or how slow you are going, which is really nice to have. Now I'd like to hand it over to Letu to just let him say a few things about what it's like in the passenger seats.
Okay, I had to move my seat up a bit forward because of the situation back in the back. But I will say this, it is a little bit annoying having, you know, this little ridge out here. Don't know if you now you can see it properly. There's a little bit of ridge out there, so, you know, your leg sort of hits over there. But it is quite comfortable. I do sit quite a bit high, but then again, it's probably just my preferred seating position right now. But yeah, other than that, you know, you're getting what you expect in a sort of like a nice hatchback and all that. It's quite smooth though, I will say that. It's quite smooth, it's quite comfortable. It's not bad over bumps. So one thing I wanted to check right now is when you get closer to the speed limit. I'm doing 66 in the 80 zone right now, and what you have is one sign on the one side saying 80 with an exclamation mark, and then on the other side you have 80 just normal. In terms of braking, the brakes are quite nice, I will say that. The other thing I will say is, yeah, handling is really good. I was saying earlier on that it might be Polo driver syndrome here, but I find myself driving a lot faster than like Polos or whatever, but this car does have a lot of power. Not a lot, it's quite peppy, let me say that. It's quite peppy. You will find yourself doing a bit higher speeds without knowing, but you know, you're not gonna go over the speed limit because Opel at least helps you out there when with the instrument cluster. So it's quite nice. Over bumps, really smooth. I quite like it over bumps, I'm not gonna lie. But we're gonna continue going shit for a bit, just because I want to give Eugene a chance to comment.
Yeah, so knowing that I have a Renault Clio myself, this is just a much more smoother car. Now I will speak about that more when I'm driving myself, but as a passenger, and I've also been a passenger in that car, this car is just so much more smoother. The suspension is just so much more compliant, so much more relaxed off. The power, well, it does have quite a bit of power, as Letu said, it is peppy, but just compared to that car, this is such a much better car. Even though it is a newer car, it is a much more expensive car, but what the ethos of this car is, it kind of is that car in a sense.
So guys, so now that I'm in the driver's seat, I do gotta say, compared to my car, I will be saying that a lot, this is just a much more better car, because in that car, I don't know what Renault did to that car, but the 0.9 liter in that car needs to be brought out to at least 1.2 in this, because with a bit more torque, a bit more power, it just feels like it's a regular car in the sense. Like when I'm driving that car, it feels like things are just exploding and just not well built in that car. Now, steering is so nice, it's very sharp.
Sorry, I have to take 720S.
720S, yeah. So, as you can see, we still do get
hyper when we see other cars. Now another thing I did want to say is the clutch really is high in this car. It's nice and soft and nice and, you know, it's easy to use, but the biting point is really high. Like you really have to get up there until, you know, you start moving. And the turbo power in this car is just so linear. You know, new cars these days really do make it feel like there really isn't any turbochargers, and this one just feels like it's honestly naturally aspirated in a sense. So if I just give it a bit, yeah, there really is almost no turbo lag in this car. Opel really did a good thing. So let me just hand it over to Matteo to tell you what it's like being a passenger.
So being a passenger, guys, it is a really comfortable and lovely experience being in the side of this car. For one, like Eugene and Leto and I have mentioned, the power is quite good. It's a really nippy amount of power, but the biggest part of this car is its torque figure. That 205 Newton meters of torque is really nice in terms of comfort, because it just allows you to get off the line so easy, so smoothly. And at the same time, if you need a bit of punch to get around another vehicle that's moving quite slowly, or you want to have a bit more fun in the car, there is ample torque to really get you going nicely throughout your gear range. So being in the passenger side, there's no like bumps and weird feelings, because the suspension is good, and on top of that, because of how compliant the gearbox and the motor is, it's a really just generally smooth drive. And I must say, these seats are really nice, being that slightly bolstered on each side to hug you in. Now again, we need to mention that there is a Bentley just passing us over there. There was just the 720S, and before that a GT4 RS, so it's been quite a nice car spotters day. And that just is the cherry on top of the cake in terms of what we have experienced from this car. This car is just phenomenal, and a really good showing from Opel. Definitely a lot better than that of, for instance, your Polos and stuff. And one big thing I did want to mention is this car does also have cruise control and an MEM button, which allows it to figure out what is the speed limit in that area, and when you activate that MEM on cruise control, it will assign the cruise control to the speed limit in the area, which is a really nice feature. And on top of that, these features all come standard and aren't optionable. I mean, we were just talking about that now, and the biggest option on this car is actually its color in that sense, and that makes it really great value for money. Now for our ultimate verdict on the new Opel Corsa and what we honestly think about this car. Now, from my perspective, and I'm guessing from both the other boys' perspectives, that they agree with me that this car is a phenomenal car, especially for around that 380,000 Rand price point. With the cruise control and other techie features you have and other safety features, as well as that phenomenal build quality and really good motor, this car is just fantastic. I mean, comparing it to a Suzuki Swift, it is just a step above that. And comparing it to the equal Polo, in terms of what you get book for book, for price, spec for spec, this is your better option for sure. Not only is the motor better than what you get in your 70 kilowatt Polos, this is also quicker and just as economical, and in my opinion, just looks the part as well. So regarding all those standard features, your LED lights, your monitors, your sensors, all of those lovely features, the wonderful engine, the economy, how nice the car drives, I think the verdict on this car is a car that you definitely should consider if you're looking for a hatchback for under the 400,000 Rand mark.
We come to the end of this wonderful review. What do we think about the new Opel Corsa? Now, compared to something like a Suzuki Swift, the Suzuki is a much more cheaper car, but you do feel that you also don't get much of performance in Suzuki that you get in this car as well. Also, compared to a Volkswagen Polo, I'd rather take this over a Polo. You just get a lot more features as standard, because in a Polo you will option some features such as cruise control as well as lane departure warning assist as well. But as an overall package, you really are getting a lot in this car. And I just want to give a massive shout out to Stellantis Santa for providing us with this wonderful car. If you want to check out the details, make sure you click down below. And as always, make sure you like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next one. Bye bye.